All right, welcome to our explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating and, yeah, pretty radical economic idea. It's called mastery-based compensation, or MBC for short. This is a system that imagines a totally different way to think about work, value, and what we all strive for. So let's get into it. You know, the roots of this idea go way, way back. We're talking ancient Greece, Plato level old. He dreamed of creating what he called a just city. Basically, a society where people could pursue what they're naturally good at, without being forced into jobs they hate just to pay the bills. The vision here is about building a world that's rich in soul, not just in capital. So let's start with the big, thought-provoking question at the heart of this whole thing. Just imagine for a second. What if your paycheck had nothing to do with market demand for your job, but everything to do with how skilled you are at it? What if a truly brilliant teacher could earn just as much as a world-class surgeon? That's the kind of world we're about to explore. Okay, so part one, a world without price tags. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's look at the core problem this whole system is trying to solve. You know, that constant tug of war between doing what you love and doing what pays the bills. And that gets us right to the heart of the mission. The goal of mastery-based compensation is to completely change our relationship with our jobs. By taking away two huge pressures, the fear of not having enough on one end and the endless chase for more and more wealth on the other, the hope is to turn every job into a craft, something you do for the sake of getting better at it. So, how in the world would a system like this actually work? Let's pop the hood and look at the central mechanism, the economic engine that would power this entire society. It's built around a concept called 100% revenue centralization. And believe me, it is as big a deal as it sounds. Here's how it works in 3 steps. First, all the money brought in by every professional group. Think hospitals, tech firms, law offices, everything. It all gets collected. Second, it all flows into one single massive national pot called the National Mastery Fund. And third, that fund then pays everybody's salary based on just one thing, your certified skill level. And this slide really shows you the night and day difference. On the left, you've got the world we live in now, where your pay is all about the market value of your job. But on the right, in the MBC system, pay is completely disconnected from the job field. A level 7 teacher and a level 7 engineer, they earn the exact same salary. Why? Because the only thing the system rewards financially is mastery. All right, part 3, rules of the game. Now, a system this revolutionary, well, it needs some pretty clever rules to keep it all in balance and working smoothly. Let's look at how it stays fair and functional. Okay, this is probably the first question that popped into your head, right? It's the big one. If a poet can earn the same as a sanitation worker based on their skill, who on earth would choose the less glamorous but totally essential jobs? Well, the system has a really elegant answer for this. It's called the per capita valve. Think of it like this. The state sets a budget for every sector of the economy. Now, if a critical sector like sanitation is struggling to find workers, that entire budget gets divided among the few people who are working there. The result is what the framework calls a scarcity bonus, a really powerful financial incentive that draws people to those jobs without ever having to force them. And you can see exactly how that works here. So a level 5 professional has their standard base salary. But if that very same person takes their level 5 skills into an understaffed field, bam, the scarcity bonus kicks in, giving their total pay a massive boost. This creates a natural pull toward critical jobs, while still leaving people who are passionate about crowded fields like the arts totally free to pursue them. The next big rule is something called the professional filter. It draws a clear line between being a hobbyist and a professional. As a hobbyist, you're on your own, you keep whatever money you make, but you don't get a salary from the state. But once you can prove your work is viable, you can become a professional. You hand over your revenue to the National Fund, and in exchange, you get a stable, guaranteed salary. This creates incredible security, protecting you from market ups and downs, and letting you just focus on getting better at what you do. Part 4, the mastery ladder. So we keep saying that pay is tied to skill, but how is that skill actually measured? How does anyone prove how good they are? Let's look at how you'd actually move up in this world. The whole system is built on a universal 10-level scale. Everybody starts out as an apprentice at level 1 or 2. And what's really cool here is that students are paid for their studies as if it's their job. From there, you become a practitioner, then a specialist. And at the very top, levels 9 and 10, are the Grand Masters, people who've truly changed their field and are actually required to mentor the next generation. It's a single, clear path to excellence for everyone. Now, to prevent any kind of favoritism or bias, moving up a level isn't about impressing your boss. You have to pass what's called a triple lock audit. It's a really robust process with 3 parts. First, they look at the hard data, your performance stats. Second, you go through a blind review from experts in your field. And third, they assess your positive impact on the community. It's designed to be as objective as humanly possible. But hold on, what about fields that take forever to study for, like becoming a doctor? Do you just start at the bottom at age 30? Nope, the system has a really smart fix for this study gap. Education is literally treated as a job. So a new doctor who graduates after a decade of intense training doesn't start at level 1. They'd start at a higher level, like a 4 or a 5, to basically give them back pay for all those years of hard work. This makes sure their lifetime earnings are fair compared to someone who started a trade at 18. So let's zoom back out for our final section, from wealth to worth. We've seen all the mechanics and rules, but let's tie it all back to that grand vision and see what it's all for. When you fundamentally rewire all the incentives like this, you change what people chase. The primary drive in society is no longer about stacking up wealth. The new ambition, the new status symbol, becomes the perfection of your chosen craft. And this quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head. The question people ask themselves when they're figuring out what to do with their lives completely changes. It shifts from a practical question about money to an aspirational question about potential. Which brings us to our final thoughts, and it's a question for you. If the fear of being poor was gone, and the temptation of getting super rich was also gone, what would you dedicate your life to mastering? In a world built not for profit, but for perfection, what would be your craft?